Alrighty, so for week 2, we're going to jump in to prep you for the project. And remember, every week we have attendance post. This post we have code along where we code along with Kevin. And then we have the project post and maybe a few other things thrown in as well. But that's generally how these weeks go. But in attendance, often I will get you ready for what's coming in the project because we're going to use most of everything we learn in Kevin's code along, but I will be adding some things on top of that just to give you more understanding of how to professionally create HTML and CSS. Okay, so for this one, what you're going to do is do some planning and content because one of the things we got from Kevin was we got a design. We're not actually going to have a design document, but you are going to have content. So the design is actually what you're going to be creating through your project as you build upon your skill set. But the content is something you can totally use generative AI to create for you. So here's what we're going to do. And I'll come back to the grading in a minute. Here's a link to the instruction. I'll go ahead and bring it up. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a multi-page site for not for this assignment, but for the project for the course. So we're doing a little prep. That's what I said. So a little site setup prep and content generation. So for the course, you're going to be creating a multi-page site on a topic of your choice. And here's what I would say about the topics. They could be in a range of areas. Just be sure it's something you would want to share with everybody else in the class because eventually you will share it with everyone and you're going to share it with me. So, keep it. Doesn't have to be academic. It could totally be something you're interested in, but keep it something you would want to share with somebody you don't really know. Okay, so in this step, we're going to set up your workspace. You're going to research your topic, use Gen AI to create some raw content. So the first thing we're going to do is create that folder. So like we did last week where you had to create week 1, now we're going to create a project folder in your private repo. Okay, this is key is where you create it. So I'm actually going to move over to VS Code because I had already done this, but I just want to give you that remembrance. Okay. So in my repo, now I'm on locally installed VS Code. If you're on CodeSpace, then you would want to set up and open up your private repo on CodeSpace. Okay, and again, we've shown how to do the various parts of opening the folder, but I'll show you that in a minute. So the first thing is where you click, and I went over this in last week, but it doesn't hurt to do it again. So if I want to create in my repo, now again, please don't get confused because I have 3 repos in here. If you were working locally, you may just have 2, which is a public and a private. So we're doing this one in your private repo. So when you're clicked here and you hit new folder, it should be at the same level, right? And so you type project here, okay? So if you're not sure, right, you can always click here as well because this selects the whole thing. And then, oh, actually, I'm wrong about that. I'm glad I did that. Maybe that's a good mistake to make. You actually do have to be in the repo if you're having more than one listed. And then you have to click this icon. So remember, create file, create folder. Okay, so for this step, you're creating a folder. Okay. So once you do that, right, then we're going to open the sandbox idea. Now, I've already gone over in attendance about the idea of opening the parent so that the get colors show up. So in here, this is just good practice to do this because it just makes everything a little cleaner. Now, again, I've already done some of the work. I'm actually working already in the future. But still, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do File, Open Folder, okay? I'm going to navigate to again, I'm working locally. If you're working on CodeSpace, it would look a little different. I'm going to come to here and I'm going to open project. Okay. And so now what happens is I only see my project. Now for you in this week, you only have, actually you don't even have images yet. You'll actually get that soon. You should have nothing in here. Okay. So in this case, we've opened up, again, I've given you instruction for how to open this on CodeSpace, right? The page will reload. I just showed you how to do it on the desktop, right? So again, you should have nothing in here. Okay, so I apologize that this could be a little different than what you see. I'm just going to drop this for a second. You should see nothing and you're about to create a file. Okay, so before asking AI to generate your content, do a little bit of research here and give this some thought, right? To make your site unique because you have a unique point of view of the things that you want to focus on. For me, it's going to be health related. It's a very big focus of my life, so that's what I'm going to focus on. So choose something interesting, right, for you, right? And then look at 2 or 3 websites on the topic. Do some searching around, right? What are some of the headings they use? What kind of list do they have? Because you're going to need headings and lists and other content to add to the site over time. Okay, so now key information. Now we're not created the file yet. Just note 3 specific facts or sections you definitely want on your site because doing this research helps you kind of get organized about what kind of content within the topic you've selected. Okay, so now we're going to create that plan. Okay, so now we're going to create a new file in your project folder. Again, here I am. So I already have it, but again, now instead of doing folder, I would do file. And now I already have the file, but for you, and this is really important that you name it the way I show here, which is all caps, read me, no space, .md. Read me, and I've said this before, is the only file that is all uppercase. Okay, so this is the file you will create. All right, now, so we're going to use some markdown syntax to structure the plan at the top of the file. Okay, so first we're going to give it a pound sign and give it whatever the name of your project is, right? Project colon and the name of it, right? And then what you're going to do is use 2 stars for the beginning and ending of description. Let me show you mine just so you can see this, right? So here's project, here's description. Now what you're looking at here is actually the what we call raw markdown. Okay, so when you're typing in this file and you name it MD, it knows you're actually writing markdown. So to look at it, like as an example, you're normally looking at this as a rendered markdown file. This is like the difference between looking at HTML when you're writing inside the editor versus looking at it when you've actually looked at it on live server. So as an example, when you're writing in here and you want to say, hey, what does that look like? You could either come over here and use the little search to actually see what it looks like when I look at it, or when maybe somebody else in the future might look at it. Now this content is only going to be shared between you and I for this part, but just to let you know. Okay, so then you do a description and then use one, like, so here's your example, right? So this is the example of what the markdown, right, would be. So in here you would fill this in, summary, and then key factors, inspiration, and you could either use 1 or you could use dashes, either one. Okay, so now that you've done this, right, you've come in here and you've done this, and then you would go in and do your commit. Now I showed how to do commits last time, right? So just know that is, like, for me, I'm locally, I would go to my terminal, I'd be in here, right? Once I make those changes to that file, then remember. And by the way, if you don't remember I had you set up a file called get help that you could look at as well, right? So that's when you would do the get add, get commit, right? And then here's your commit message. So I grade on part of this work on commits. Okay, so now that now you can use whatever tool you want to generate raw text. Now you're going to have 2 separate pages here. So think about this, right? Now I say a home page and an about or services, but you can name the second page whatever you want. That's really about the topic that you have, right? Your prompt must use your research you did here, right? So you did some research up here, so let's use it, right? You want a catchy heading, descriptive text, and a list of some type. Now I've given you some sample prompts here, but really you can do, this is where, the more you write prompts, the better you get at it. These are just some starting concepts, okay? All right, so now under your README, in your README file, now you're gonna add two pound signs, page 1, and then whatever, and typically, again, this first one is home, right? So let me show you mine, right? So page, here we go, home. And then you're going to use these, and this is the one thing that's just a little bit tricky, but you got it, okay? See these 3 backticks? And that's what this actually talks about is triple backticks. So you do backticks and then you do text, and then you copy in whatever that text was that you're going to have for your homepage. Again, go get some content for this, okay? And then you'll add one for page 2, right? So again, 2 pounds, page 2, copy the content into there. Again, making sure you're using those, and we call this a code block, but triple backticks, okay? And then you'll actually add a link to your session, right? So wherever you use, give me a link to that, okay? Now, in this case, what did I give? I gave an example, like of some of the text. Now, I just showed you as an example as well in mine, right? And then at the very end, what you're going to give me is another 2 pound signs and 2, and this would be your AI section link. So this is where almost all of your major uh, Gen AI tools will allow you to share that link. And all I want to be able to do is go in and look at it to see how you went through and did that. Okay, so let me pull up chat just to show you. So here's one I was working on with another class. And in here, and this is true for any of them, you can hit share, right? And when you do that, you can just get a copy of it. Okay, and when you get a copy, then you could come back into your README file, and I'll show you how you can do this. Is you could actually just put 2 pounds and then just actually paste in. There actually is other ways to do links, but for now, this is totally fine. Okay, so you now can do your second. Let's come back over here. All right, so this now will be your second. So now you have 2 commits, right? So once you get all that work done, now do your second commit. Okay. Now, here's what to know. How I grade this part is, did you create the correct folder? Did you do all the commits? And does your README file contain all the content? Okay, so in this case, this is worth, right, 70 points. Now, when you hit reply, because this is a discussion, you're not going to share that content in here, right? I will grade this separately, right, on GitHub. You don't have to, because this is a private repo, and if you were to paste in your, you were thinking maybe I give a link. No, you don't need to do that, because private repos are only shared between you and I. The public ones, which we will use soon, will be actually shared among everybody. Okay. Now, in your post, you have to just post a reply regarding your experience of doing this work, like any part of it. Like, was it fun? Did, maybe share the topic. Why did you choose that topic if there's nothing else about this that you can think of? And then 15 for making a substantive reply to another fellow student. Only one reply is required. I don't even say how long, but I do want it to be, a good paragraph here. It doesn't, one sentence won't do it, 2 sentences. Give me at least 3. If you want me to give you a number of sentences between 3 and 5, but also, talk about, your experience of doing the work. So this is how this is graded. And then all you have to do is do your normal reply in here to do that. Okay, I hope this helps you understand the work you need to do. Reach out if you have any questions.